Welcome, Viwe, to episode, I think, 21 of that Indie Talk podcast. The series of podcasts throughout this month is basically focus on women's achievements, women's issues, everything that has got to do with Women's Month. I wanted to highlight on the platform on this podcast. And so this year I decided to do something different. Instead of
Mhm.
approaching women from different platforms around the world, I said, hey, let me focus on people who've been following this platform and let me feature their stories. And you are one of those people. When I looked through your post, I saw that you summited Kilimanjaro and you're quite active. I saw a photo shoot for an Adidas, the Adidas Boost, which I've been meaning to get. So I was like, hey, let me pick her brain, let me invite her onto the platform. And I was really hoping that you'd be back and ready to do this. And luckily you were. So welcome to your episode. Feel comfortable. We're just gonna have a conversation about you, what irks you, what excites you. And I'm really hoping for, for a good, insightful conversation. To everybody joining, this is Viwe. I want to say Ntlebi, but when I read her email address, it said something else. So I don't want to mess up the surname.
I will, I will explain myself. Don't worry.
I will not. I'm not gonna try. I won't butcher her surname, but yes, this is Viwe. She's a runner hiker from Cape Town in South Africa, and today she's just going to share some of her journey, her fitness journey, and all about hiking because we haven't really had anybody who enjoys hiking on this platform. But before we start, and before we get to know more about you, apparently you can't have a live without a drink. So I'm having water and I'm also having coffee because I just love coffee. I'm such a coffee person. What are you having?
I'm having my tea and
What
my water. Rooibos
what
tea. I'm such
rooibos?
a
Just
rooibos tea person. Like, I don't take any other tea. Oh, well, I do, like infused stuff, but my go-to beverage of choice is always tea.
tea. Okay, so you survived
Secondary.
lockdown. You survived lockdown quite well.
I survived lockdown smoothly, in fact. Oh my God, I
That's
didn't thank
good.
you for having me on your platform.
Please, you don't need to thank me. I mean, like people like you make my platform amazing. I appreciate engaged followers like you because I know that if I post something, there's always going to be somebody who's going to engage with it, and that keeps me the spirit to to go on. Because sometimes you create content and then you see, oh, one person saw this, and you're like, should I really go on? But the one person that says, I enjoyed this, I enjoyed listening to this, I enjoyed watching this, that's it for me. So thank you. No, thank you to you for agreeing to be on the platform. I think I've given like a rough introduction to who you are. So I would like you to fill in the gaps on what I missed.
Okay. My name is Viwe Ntlebi. Um, got married and I inherited that surname. But some reason Ndongeni keeps latching on. I think I have sentimental values to it between me and you. But yeah, I fully use my surname Ntlebi, but my byline for work purposes is always Ndongeni Ntlebi. A double barrel for work purposes, and yeah, so that's where the confusion might come in. But I am a runner, I am a hiker, and I am a holistic health lover. I love everything that involves health, mental health. I'm passionate about mental health. And I am a writer. I work as a lifestyle writer, particularly focusing on health and well-being. Yes, what else do I leave out? That's in a nutshell.
I think that's a good nutshell, and I like that you touched on the mental health aspect because that's not something that's really like brought into light. I think now with lockdown and Corona, it's popping up that mental health is important. But growing up, mental health there wasn't really focus on it. So I think there'll be more focus that's placed on mental health and mental well-being, and I think that's really like that's really really important. I think I have a lot of people who walk around with mental health issues, but they don't know, or they, they're scared to interrogate what exactly that is. But I like that you said you focus on holistic health. So take me through your journey, your fitness journey from, let's say, primary school to where it is now.
Um, I think for primary school, I wasn't really an active child. I'm not one of those where I was like, oh my God, I excelled in sport. I was an overachiever and I sucked at netball. Still can't play it with my height. Still suck at it. Um, so I wouldn't really say in primary school I was great, but in high school, that's where I was like, there's something there. I started being involved in sports like triathlons. I wasn't one thing. I found myself there, and I was like, "Oh, okay, maybe there's something here." That's when I got introduced to training intensively and hiking intensively. I eventually got bored, but yeah, that was it. I picked up in there. Varsity, not so much active, just a regular runner here and there. And I've always been a runner. Come from a family who really appreciates running and health and being active. So varsity, there was that. I picked up on it. But as time went, I realized that I was really good at it. I was really good at running. And I think one thing that people might not know is that I think I had a health scare with my mom when I was in varsity. So it had something to do with the heart. And I went to a doctor to check out my heart because it was a side effect.
Mm,
So the doctor said to me, you have a heart of an athlete, and your greatest strength should be moving and running. So your greatest health lies in the fact that you are active and good. So from that day onwards, my life was changed for the good. So I actually was intentional with the process of running.
mm,
And yeah, with hiking, it came a bit later on. It was just like, us Cape Townians, we can't really do much
yes.
on weekends.
There's a mountain in Cape Town.
Yes, and it
It
was
must be climbed.
free. Yes, and it's a free sport. It's just like everyone's like, let's go hiking. And I fell in love with it. I fell in love with it, with the whole concept of being outside and being challenged and stuff. And that's where my passion lied. And I think something that really sparked me though about hiking was how it looks so simple, but yet it required so much strength.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
So I was like,
yeah.
okay, maybe there's something there. So I think I don't remember what year was it. I saw a picture that came up in my memory that I entered a charity event, a challenge that involved running, no, hiking 3 peaks in one day. Lion's Head, it was Lion's Head, Devil's Peak, and Cape Town. So I was unfit at that time. I just went with my
Mm,
deal. It was a charity event after all. So I went up and I hiked and it took me solid 9 hours to finish all of them in one day. And after that, I was like, damn, yes, I'm a good person. And on top of it, I'm fit. Like, I didn't train well. I eventually, on a Wednesday, collapsed and I had to rest. But it was something that really kicked off the mountain love.
you mentioned that you did triathlons in high school. That's quite unique. There's two things you mentioned that stood out for me. One, you said you're not good at netball, and I think netball is like a black girl's, I don't know, like
I
entry
know,
into
I
sport.
know. I felt so
Black
bad
girls
about it.
netball, like this, you know. So you're just like an outlier. I think you're the only woman I've spoken to on this platform who sucked at netball and they admitted it. Everybody says netball was my thing in high school. And so you mentioned that you did triathlon in high school. How was that experience like?
It was not like intensive. triathlons. It was like a high school level. I only competed once.
Okay.
Only competed once, but it was something that really opened up my mind. I wasn't a good swimmer, so probably that was another thing. But I competed once. But the training towards that thing was intense. It was what I wanted.
Yes.
It
Yes.
was
Yes. Yes.
mountains, it was stairs, it was running, it was multiple of squats, and to do such a thing in a small town like I come from, it was something quite great.
Mm, I'm thinking about it now, and it's actually quite great. Like in high school, I wasn't even thinking about triathlon. Hell, in high school, if you had asked me to go run, I would have given you a sick note. You know, I was very inactive in high school. I did drama, I did public speaking, but sport, no. I wanted to play hockey, but I was very scared of the hockey ball because I know people had lost teeth and they had gotten blue eyes from the hockey ball. So I was grand. Quite a contrast to where I am now. Like any sport, just put me in and I'm willing to participate. Um, but yeah, how do you balance it all? I know you said in Cape Town there's nothing to do on weekends, but I mean to hike and to run, you must somehow change during the week. So how do you squeeze that in with your day job?
Ooh, hiking always happens on the weekend most of the time. I was not one of those people who could slot it in like a moon hike. I did moon hikes, but it was not a full moon hike. That's what they call it in Cape Town. But I wasn't quite regular with them because I didn't have the time, to just
Mm,
from work, drive up to a mountain, hike, go home, prepare for work. It was just not.
mm,
I did it once or twice. But that was a challenge with balancing running and hiking. I would love to assume that my first love is running, followed by hiking, even though now I'm quite in a battle with the two. But at first, when I started hiking and training for Kili, it required a lot of my Saturdays. My Saturdays were
mm,
specifically put aside for long runs. So now I came hiking, long run, hiking, long run. So I basically had to balance the two. Sometimes it would mean that I would go hiking with some people on Sunday and then
mm.
running on Saturday. So that's how it worked. And sometimes it would be short runs, maximize my short runs. But I didn't run long runs like I did before when I really took up hiking as something that was quite intentional. I think it's quite a difficult sport to balance if you have another sport because you can only do it on Saturday and Sunday. And you still have
Mm.
to race and
Yes,
have a social
yes. I
and
was
be
going to
aware.
ask where the rest is coming in, you know? When do you do it?
You know, and still have a social life and still be a wife. So I struggled a bit with my social life while I was still training for Kili. I kind of like put it aside. The only time I met the people who wanted to meet or hang out with me was either on a trail or on a run. I did not have
Ish.
time.
Yes,
I,
yes.
I just couldn't. I couldn't stretch myself because it meant that I would hike from in the morning right to the afternoon and still grab like late lunch and still get home, rest and just be have family time. So
Mm,
I just couldn't balance it. So it meant that if you want to see me, let's do a run. If you want to see me, let's do a
let's go
hike.
hiking. Mm.
Yes, so it became like an invite type of thing. But Pakati I knew, but nope. We're just trying to balance.
It's almost like you were training for comrades, hey? Because people who are training for comrades, they say, I don't have time for social life, you know? I
Mm,
block everything out.
exactly that. I remember having a conversation with Ulesa Kozu, and she told me that when she was training for comrades, she had to tell the people around her that this is my situation now. This is what I'm doing. This is what I want to accomplish, so I won't have time. And I took it quite lightly when I committed myself to doing this because I was like, nah, man, we can all go hiking. At first, it was easier because you could bring people along with you hiking, but the training schedule and the demand for hiking increased as the reality of Kili came close. So people can't really hike every weekend with you. You know what I mean? Hiking every weekend doesn't make sense to their social life, understandably so. But as time went by, I couldn't. There were times where I went up hiking alone, where I would go from Table Mountain up to the top, down alone, because that was
Wow.
my reality.
Did you
That
feel
was my.
safe doing that?
I did. I did to a certain degree. I
Okay.
usually like to start hiking very early in the morning, especially in summer, so I can get it over and done with. So that
Mm,
meant I sacrifice going early and having the rest of the afternoon to myself. Because going early means it's quiet, it's dark, the sun only comes out in Cape Town at only at 8 o'clock, sometimes at 7:30, past 7. That's how late it comes.
mm,
So it meant that I could only start hiking at 8 or past 8. So meaning I'd be only back in the house in the afternoon with traveling and everything. So it was a sacrifice that I had to do because of safety. So it did
mm.
because of lockdown, the hiking trails got a little bit busy, so I could chance.
Everybody's new favorite sport was hiking. Everybody was a hiker.
Yo, yes. So I could
The
chance
trails.
because the trails were busy, but pre-lockdown I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have
Mm.
felt safe about it.
It's
So I
an
think
issue that
that's
I've
what
been
helped.
picking up from these lives. That like being alone as a woman in such spaces is not safe, you know?
It isn't safe, but you know, there's areas in Cape Town where you can get away with being a female alone. There's certain areas, not all of them, but there's certain areas where you can get away with with just being on the mountains. Most of the people who go up Table Mountain, so if you're going on a trail alone, Table Mountain's your go-to because it's quite busy, it's quite popular. Lion's Head is quite busy, it's quite popular. So you get away with it most of the time. But with the running, I couldn't get away with it. So hiking
Mm,
is a bit
mm,
better because of lockdown. Because
mm,
of
mm.
lockdown. I don't know how all of this has ended, how life is going to be.
I think we'll have a lot more active. I'm hoping there'll be a lot more active people. I'm hoping there'll be a lot more runners, a lot more hikers, a lot more walkers, just people moving, right? Because I think with the advent of COVID, you've seen that if you're unfit, you're more likely to be affected by this than if you are fit. Not that it's like a perfect science, but just keeping up your general health is always better. And I think from this pandemic, people have picked that up. I want to ask you about Kilimanjaro. How did that come about?
Ooh, that one was a long time standing dream of mine.
Mm,
I I have always had Kili on my bucket list. I wanted to do it and I've had it on it for years. So it's something that I knew that I was gonna do. But because of how far, not quite far, but like because I didn't know how to get it, I kind of pushed it to like I added a little bit 6 years more to getting to it. So it's something that I've had at the back of my head and I had written down that I was gonna do it. And then 2016, when there was a tragic accident, Kakuko Zulu, who died while summiting,
mm,
I was watching it on the telly, like in the work office, we call it the newsroom. So if there's big news before COVID, we would sit and we would watch, and there's TVs all over the office. So we were watching this memorial service happening, and I marveled at the level of strength that this woman had to say she's going back the next year. Her husband just died, and she was saying she's going back the next year, and I couldn't believe it. So I blatantly shouted out at the office, I'm doing it with them next year. And just like that, I had committed loudly to a vision that I had kept to myself for all these years. I think I did an internet search after that about how to get onto the program, and it really didn't go anywhere. Following day, I was trying to get through it and trying to source out information. And eventually I put it aside because it was too much of an internet search for me that time. I got preoccupied. Got married as well because my mind was preoccupied. But years later, I met someone who I loved. I met here on Instagram, in fact, Uketu and Shanga. I met here, and she introduced me to the organizers of the foundation, and then I had a date to it, and that's how I got involved. And I put a date next to what I wanted to do, which was 2020, but because of COVID, we couldn't do it last year. But that's how it was, how the journey was birthed, and how it had a date to it, which was 2020, and then eventually 2021.
We
That's
have
how
a
it got.
question here from Saint Find, and they're saying how long was the trip up the mountain, which is basically my next question on like how was the experience? Take us through. I don't want to say leaving the airport, but just you leaving the country, going to another country to climb a mountain. How was all of
Oh,
that?
that was just a beautiful moment, but it was such a bittersweet moment the day I got to the airport and we're like, we are boarding and we're leaving. Because the whole time we had anxiety whether we're going to make it to the airport. Our rest of the fellas going to make it to the airport because we left when there was that looting and rioting. So it was quite a sad moment
Oh,
for, you know, it was such a sad
mm,
moment for South Africans, and it's a sad moment for us to witness and to navigate the nerves and the anxiety of getting to the airport. We had people who had sat in the airport for like 7 hours just so they don't miss their flights from Durban to Joburg. So it was a bittersweet moment. You know, you're excited because you're doing this for the country and for the girls in the
mm,
country. You're raising this money and you're doing all of this, and yet it feels like the country is on fire in the literal
yes.
sense. So I had to navigate a lot of feelings of, oh my God, I'm leaving at this time. I wish it was better. If only the situation was, you know. So it was quite nerve wracking. But as soon as I met the crew, it was excitement galore. And then I was like, let's do this. Let's do this. So when we got to Tanzania, we had a day that we arrived on because of COVID, traveling was quite intense. I think I did 3 COVID tests just to get to the
Mm,
country of Tanzania. So when I eventually got there, we had our day one scheduled the following day after arrival. So we left and it was a drive to the mountaintop. We took there's various routes that you can take along the mountain, so it's not just one route. So there's
okay.
multiple. The most popular one is called the Coca-Cola one, which we didn't take because of COVID. We took the Rangai route. So it took us 4 days and an overnight hike. Yeah, I'll explain that a bit. An overnight hike and then a full-on day and then a hike down. So how it's done is that first day was light, was nice and easy. We arrived at the gate, did all the paperwork, got told the rules, briefings, basic rules like how much water you should be drinking, which is a minimum of 3 liters a day. How to walk, yes, minimum of 3 liters a day. How to walk, like it's a very slow walk. Most of the people think we're tracking down. It's a very slow walk. It's just 1 foot forward, the following 1 foot forward, the following one. That's the rhythm. That's the rhythm right to the top. So we were told just those basics on the first day. Our bags were weighed, which is quite important. We have porters helping us to carry our bags for the 5 days. You only carry your own backpack, which has your day's supply, your 3 liters of water or 4 liters of water, and snacks and your essential medical supply. That's what you carry. The rest is carried by the porters. So day one's quite easy, nice and relaxed, slow pace. You can chat, you can have a full-on conversation. Oxygen levels there are still nice. So quite easy. So day one was quite nice. Moved on to day two. Oh, here's the thing. I hadn't slept in a tent ever. Ever. I spent 5 days in a tent, sleeping in a sleeping bag and a mattress. My butt was aching, my sides were aching. Like, that's the worst thing about it. But I fully enjoyed the experience. So day one was okay, day two was fine. I think the biggest issue with Kili, it's not that it's physically taxing, it's just that you're unwell when you do it. You're battling with nausea, you're battling with headaches, constant headaches that you can't even take medication for, and I battled with insomnia. While the rest of the team had like 10 hours of sleep, I had, according to my watch, an hour and 50 minutes collectively. That's how
Wow.
affected me. So obviously I struggled with the energy on the third day because of that. But I picked up eventually because the rule is that we hike up and sleep low. So you walk a bit higher altitude, you acclimatize, and then come back to a lower level and sleep. So that's
Okay.
what we did. That's what we did for 4 days. I think the most challenging day though was the last night, because you are meant to sleep from the afternoon, not afternoon, at about 8, so that you can rest and wake up and start tracking at 12. I couldn't because of insomnia, because I was battling with
Mm.
insomnia. I'd been awake for like almost 30 hours when I summited Kili, and I had to walk at 12 o'clock midnight to start walking, because we start at 12 o'clock at night with -0 temperatures. You can't feel your fingers, you can't feel your toes. You basically are told to start wiggling, playing. You're walking and you're playing with your toes, holding the tracking poles, and you're walking and twiddling your toes just so you have circulation going on in your toes and your fingers. But it's a beautiful experience. You know, I highlighted all the challenges, but it's a beautiful experience. I wouldn't trade it for the world. When I came back, and as soon as I got down from the mountain, I said, I'm not doing this again. I got home, and when people asked me, I said, I'm not doing it again. I had a week or two to rest it out and to think about the transformations that happened on the mountain. And I said, okay, maybe, just maybe I'll go back to it. It's an experience that I wouldn't be able to articulate it to you unless you experience it yourself.
It's a
It's one
personal
of
experience.
definitely you. It's a personal experience. There are moments where you you introduce yourself to you while you're walking. There's moments where you discover hidden strength that you didn't know you had, because that's what is required on the mountain. You're in a team of people you've just met for the purpose of the journey. So you are
Mm.
challenged by them, and you're challenged by yourself, because you know your weaknesses and you know your strength. So there's no point in hiding your weaknesses from these people who are supposed to assist you to get to the top. And there's no point in you trying to try and be something that you're not, because your body is under pressure, you don't have oxygen, you can't think straight, you're exhausted. So you kind of forced to be in a vulnerable position with people who hardly know you, where
Mm,
you have to bury it all and say, this is me, this is what I'm struggling with currently. So hence I say it was just a beautiful journey. And you meet our team of porters, we call them porters, who helped us, was like 30-man team. That's what it's required to help, because there are people carrying your food, your tents, your clothes, and everything. You meet these people who work so hard to
mm,
assist someone in achieving a dream, and you're like, hold up. If I have these people who put aside their families, their lives, their health, so I can achieve a dream, you rely on such strength as you go along, and you have a lot of conversation with people. I loved that I didn't have any signal for all of those 5 days. I detached from the world completely, and all I had to do was just walk. I wasn't
mm.
an employee, I wasn't a wife, I wasn't a sister, I wasn't a daughter. I was just me. I had no responsibilities attached to me. So hence I say it was just magical in so many ways, because you're forced to do a lot of introspection of who you are outside all of these roles that you're given by society, that you have
Mm.
given yourself. So it was just something magical,
It
magical
sounds
beyond.
like a pilgrimage to self, but in as much as you cannot articulate what it would be for somebody else, when you reach the top, is there anything that you see? You know, when you get to the top of Lion's Head, you can see like the ocean, you can see Cape Town, and it's just an amazing view. On Kilimanjaro, is it something like that?
Kili, it's like one, like through the entire trail, you don't see anything. Like there's nothing living there. There's no life. It's not like you'll see a butterfly or a mosquito or even a fly there. Like there's no life. It's just gray. So you walk up top in the last bit of Kili, you have, like, I don't know, gravel sand. I don't know what's the right word. I forgot about it. I'll let you know what it is. It's gray, and you're just tortuously walking through this path for like good solid 8 hours, like stepping on one position. You take a step forward, and somehow you find yourself back and you push up again. So there isn't much to see there, but when you get to the top, the first thing you see, the first thing I saw, now that you ask me, I got to the top and I stood there and I thought, oh my God, I made it. And I saw this, like almost like this dry patch of land. And on the opposite side, it's like an open space, like a cliff type of thing. And you can see another mountain further down. So it's like, my God, I'm here. And then the instructor says, no, that's where you're going. And the Uhuru sign is still 4 hours away. And that's when the reality of it's not yet Uhuru comes into play. And you see it, it's like 4 hours away. You have just fought an overnight. You have just walked like 9 hours or 8 hours or so, and you're still not there. But you can still get a certificate that says you've summited Kili,
Mm,
because there's a sign that says Gilman Point. So it's
mm,
gray, it's quite dry, nothing much to see. It's really nothing much to see. So as we went on, it's normal, like it's a normal hiking trail where there's a cliff on this side, a cliff on this side, and on your right hand side it's just like a stone you're trying to soldier through. But as soon as you get to like 50 meters to the actual tip of like the top, then life changes. As soon as you open your eyes, you are surrounded by glaciers. You are surrounded by ice. The glaciers are even like blinding. Like it's like ice all over. You have to put on your glasses if your eyes are sensitive because it's like white. It's like a fairy tale. I've never seen such a thing. I've never thought I would witness something that in Africa. Like it's beautiful. I don't know if you watch Frozen. Have you watched Frozen? I know a lot of
I
people
have.
don't.
That's the image I
If
have
you
in my head right now. You know, ice in
exactly,
Africa.
it's less. Yes, it's a little bit less than that, but it's something similar to this because you walk into the space and all you can see if you lift your head up, it's glaciers all around. I didn't expect that. And while you're starting to walk to the point, you're seeing a lot of ice. You're walking on ice, like waist high ice. That's how there's trails, there's pots, but you're walking in between ice and you can fall in. So you have to be careful. So while you're walking, you're surrounded with all this beauty. It's a beautiful moment. Like it's a pity that I wasn't really at my best health wise. Mountain sickness
Mm-hmm.
got me that I could fully enjoy that moment. But sure, it's beautiful. I got there and I was like, oh my God, this is beautiful. Started soaking everything in, then mountain sickness came. Started puking because that's what happens when you get to the top. It's not as glamorous as people
Mm.
make it up. But I recovered. But yeah, that's it. It's beautiful. It's something magical.
Just on your experience, there's two questions that came through. So Joy was asking, is 4 days the minimum one can take to get to the top of the mountain? And Caesar Niam asked, what's the temperature like up there?
It's not the minimum that you can take. It depends on the route that you take. It depends on 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 how you're doing physically as well. Because some people acclimatize. Like we had a day where we stayed in one. We arrived on day three, if I'm right. Day three, no, day two. I don't remember the days where we arrived, and we slept, woke up the following day, walked high, came down again and slept in the same place because we had to acclimatize. So it depends on the leader's assessment of how you guys are doing physically and otherwise. So some people can hold it out and take it faster depending on acclimatization. Excuse me. Some people can be slower depending on the route because how it's programmed, there's different what we call camps. It's called camps where you get to the second camp. That's your mark. You can decide you're sleeping or going higher. So it's not the same with all people. But I know other people can take 7 days. I know people
Mm.
can take less days, but I don't know what's the minimum number you can take for the days.
And the
I think
temperature?
I don't know. I actually don't know what temperatures we experience, but I do know it can really drop to anything between. I was telling someone and I was reading it yesterday. Oh, I'll think about it now. But it can be minus from -7 right to -20 degrees, but I stand to be corrected. But it's in the minus zones.
In
But
essence, in essence, it's cold. Sorry, go on.
it's very cold. But during the day, it's fine. We
Okay.
you find because there are days where I was just walking with a long sleeve. The days are
Mm.
fine. The nights are extremely cold. We are advised to drink a
Mm.
lot of water. So you live on water. So what you do is even when you go to your tent and you're sleeping in your bag, you have like your liters worth of water next to you. So if you happen to wake up in the night to go to the loo or something, not the loo, if you have to go to whatever that is available for you to use, you have a liter of water right next to you. And when you drink it, it feels like you're drinking from a freezer, and it's
Mm.
like tent temperature. That's how
Mm.
cold it is. You know, when you take out water from the freezer and you can actually write your
Yep.
name. Yep, that's the kind of water that is. You put your water next to you and you can actually feel it. It shocks your teeth when you drink from it. That's how bad it is. And if you leave anything outside your tent, it will be ice in the morning. That's how cold it is. It's extremely cold. I don't want to lie. I don't want to lie. It's extremely cold, but it's doable cold. There's hand warmers that you can bring along. There's thermal clothes. It's a manageable cold, but it is cold. I don't want to lie.
You've sold the Kilimanjaro dream to me. So now I just want to ask, like, from your time being active throughout all these years, are there any like challenges you faced as a woman in terms of sports or in your current workplace?
Yeah, I've experienced quite a few. I think even when I said I'll go to Kili, um, I met a lot of people who thought that it wasn't a great sport for me to do because I was female.
Mm,
There were people who thought that I shouldn't be doing it, that it's not my place as a female to go risk my life, that I should know my place. So had to deal with a lot of those just to summit. Thank goodness there was a lot of voices speaking around me that were giving me the go ahead, including my husband. So I was okay and content with the fact that he was okay with me doing it. And even though it meant that I had to let go of other voices, but it's very challenging to come and say I'm doing this as a female. Also with running, running was quite popular among men, not among females,
mm,
particularly small time. I come from a small town, not a city. Cities are a bit forward with active people and all of that. I came from a small town and it's not something that was necessarily done. So I would find myself like going to the gym with my leggings and my top, and you would see people like, Kaibo, cover up. Can your top be a little bit longer? Stuff like that. Because I was female and I was like, excuse me, what? So I had to deal with a lot of that, particularly that. And even like managing a schedule as a female, being athletic is quite difficult because you have to
yes.
balance life quite well. You have the home, you have the
Mm,
family, a lot of things are on your shoulders, you have work. So finding a slot to be active is quite a challenge. And also, your environment and where you stay determines how far you can go with your activeness. Because in winter, if not, my husband is not willing to run with me, it means that I run less because it's not safe.
mm,
Um, it means that I don't explore all the routes that I want to explore because I'm female and it's not safe.
mm,
It means that I can't run with headphones like you have when you're running and have your playlist because I always have to be
mm,
aware of my surroundings. And if I have headphones on, I can't hear footsteps and I can't hear cars like coming to park nearby me. So there's a lot of limits to how to being outside and exploring the outside world. You always have to find people to go with. You always have to do it in a safe area, and even in those safe areas, they are targeted areas where they study your routine. I had a couple of people who would check my routine and knew that okay, in the afternoon at 6 o'clock I go running, so it meant that I had to change my routine, and sometimes I
yeah.
had to run in the morning just so that I can feel a bit safe. I think those are my greatest
Oh,
challenge. When it comes to running, my biggest challenge is safety. I can
mm,
manage it with
mm,
hiking, but with running, safety. I always have to depend on male. So if my husband doesn't want to run, fortunately, that's
no
how life
running.
is. No running.
Mm,
I can manage it in summer, but in winter, I just am dependent on him. And he can't run every day. Like, remember, I did a 30-day challenge where I ran for 30 consecutive days. And he can't run so much because he had an operation in his ankle. So I was
mm,
conflicted whether to how am I going to fit it in? Because I need to be safe. I need to finish what I started, you know what I mean? So it means I have to go during the harsh sunburn. But it's
Yeah.
manageable. Somehow we make it work.
You manage the privilege that I don't think I have in terms of running with music. You know, it's second nature to me. Like I can't even run without my headphones. So I've been asking this question just, you know, just for the fun of it. If you were to one day wake up and you woke up in a man's body, what would be the things you would do, you know?
Ah, the things, I like that you say the things that are giving me options. Um, One, I would acknowledge that as a man, I have privilege. That's the one thing I would do. In a room full of men, I would boldly acknowledge that I have privilege of being a man. Not being a privilege of being a man, but because of being a man, I'm privileged. There's a gender privilege that comes with it. So that's the first thing that I would do, because not every man accepts that they have privilege. So that would be the one thing. Two, the second one would be to be a voice of reasoning to fellow man. You know, I'll do that. I'll do that, to be a voice of reasoning to fellow men. And one thing that I really, really made me want to be a man in Kili was the fact that when we had to have a toilet break, we had to look for bushes. Candy men just stood anywhere and relieved themselves. You know, it sounds ridiculous because you want to be a man because of that. But yes, I wanted to just hike and all of a sudden look to the left and right and relieve myself.
Apparently, there is a device for women that will allow you to do that. So the next time you're on the mountain, get yourself one of those devices, and then at least one thing on your list will be ticked off.
Look here, I discovered that device. It's called the Shiwi. I only
Yes,
discovered what there. That there is something that you can use that makes you just, yeah. Now I
yes.
know. I have
Now you
I just
know.
need to
Next time, get yourself one, you know, and you'll be sorted for that aspect. But before Instagram cuts this live, like, what is your message of hope for Women's Month?
I have two. Um I think that as women we should know that we are enough. We are enough, we are capable, we are able, and we can. There's no doubt about it. Just because we're not given the platform to do it, it doesn't mean that we can't. So we are enough, definitely enough, full stop, not but, not however. Enough, full stop. And my other one is definitely hope. One thing that we as women can hold on to is hope. Whether the sun is going down tonight, we have challenges to face. Tomorrow it will rise again. We hold on to the hope that things will be better for us, that we will be recognized, that we will be given opportunities, that we will be celebrated equally, and we will thrive in a society that accepts us for who we are.
Mm, mm. Very, very powerful message. And I love that message. And while you were speaking about women being enough, I was thinking, is your next mountain going to be Mount Everest or does it stop at Kilimanjaro?
I get this question all the time. I get this question all the time. Um, and it's a funny thing because my husband knows me. When I tick one box, I move on to the next. So he went to pick me up at the airport with friends. And as soon as they celebrated me, we did the whole thing and we got into the car. One friend bolts out, I don't think you should do Everest. And I turned and looked at her, and she was telling me that they had been discussing it with with my husband, how risky it is and all of that, because they knew that I would gun for Everest after I had successfully finished this. So I don't know yet. I have committed myself to an opportunity that would involve Everest. So I don't know if it answers your question, but what I do definitely know is that I want to do Mount Kenya, the second highest peak in Africa. That I'm definitely sure that I'm doing, and I have put a date to it. With Everest, I'm doing it. I'm laughing because my husband is listening.
One day.
One day, but I definitely have it on my bucket list. But I'm more focused on Mount Kenya first.
And just as we're about to end, the person who pushed you to do Kilimanjaro joins the live.
I'm so
Hi,
excited.
Katie.
I'm so excited. When we talk about destiny helpers, we're talking about mine, Katie. I mentioned it earlier on, and I wish she was here to hear me say I really appreciate this woman with everything in my heart. And I hope she knows. Thank
I
you,
will
Katie.
I will exclusively send her a link to this episode. Katie is partners with Lechicho, right? They have a
Yes, they have a
pop-up gym, right? Yes,
pop-up
yes,
gym
yes.
that trains everywhere and everyone. They're on social media. You can look them up. Pop-up gym.
The plug.
Yes. So yes,
And with that, I would
that's a
like to thank
plug.
you for joining me
Yeah.
tonight. Like, I enjoyed this conversation. I learned a lot. I had no idea it takes so much to summit Kilimanjaro. I thought you just walked until you got to the top. I didn't know it was so technical and it took so much out of a person to get there. I guess I was just likening it to my experience on Lion's Head, and that's nothing compared to what you have to do in Tanzania. So thank you so much for this. Now you planted a seed in my head to say, will I do this? And knowing myself, I might
I
just,
can plug you.
I
I
might
can
just,
plug you with the
I
relevant
might just.
people that will make the pots do the thing. I can plug you. I hope you
I
do.
might
I
just
hope
step
you do
into
it
this
for yourself.
kitchen.
Yes, I hope you do. I hope you challenge yourself and actually do it. And I hope you actually choose. There are many options to do Kili. I hope that you choose the foundation, Imbumba Foundation, that does Track for Mandela. It's a good course for young girls. It's just amazing initiative. I hope you choose that too. Thank you for having me on your platform. I enjoyed your content. I enjoyed
Thank you,
having this
Sue.
conversation.